Pac-Man is a unique cultural artifact. He's as minimal and enigmatic as a hieroglyph, but has the power to banish ghosts from endless mazes using nothing but pep pills and his gigantic body-sized mouth. Is Pac-Man an unholy terror? A faceless critique of capitalist ennui? Or is he just a guy who's hungry for sweet, sweet ghost bodies? Here's a look at the strange history of video games' most beloved yellow circle.
Pac-Man just gives me this feeling of giddiness, like there's all these tingles running up and down my nipples.
Puckman. Originally, Pac-Man was simply Puckman, and not because he bears a striking resemblance to a hockey puck. The word puck is based on a Japanese onomatopoeia for eating, paku paku, which is essentially the Japanese equivalent of chomp chomp.
Oh, I just remembered. I'm allergic to shrimp.
However, when the game's arcade cabinets made their way to the US, Puckman was changed over concerns the cabinet could be easily vandalized to say something much more rude. Let's be honest, the temptation to scratch a little paint off that P is very real. Pizza power.
And then all those ghosts turn blue, boo! And Pac-Man eats them all too.
Eating stuff is the main goal of Pac-Man. You see it, you eat it. Power pellets, ghosts, and bonus fruits are no match for your relentless chompers. This focus on eating was intentional from the start, and it had a surprising goal. The game's creator, Otto observed that arcades had exclusively become playgrounds for boys, with games focusing on spaceships and shooting aliens, generally creating a dark, gloomy environment. Iwatani wanted to make arcades more accessible to more people. He told Wired, "When you think about things that women like, you think about fashion, or fortune-telling, or food, or dating boyfriends. So I decided there should be a game around eating. After eating dinner, women like to have dessert. If you take a pizza and remove one piece, it looks like a mouth. That was where my idea came from." As strange and stereotypical as those ideas were, it worked. Making the colorful characters cute and using colors that would visually pop changed the usual late 70s arcade look. Ultimately, the driving force behind the project was the idea that girls just wanted to have fun. And eat a lot. Crazy Otto. Behind the scenes of Ms. Pac-Man's traditional marriage into the Pac family was an uneasy union between video game company Midway and a group of MIT dropouts. While Kevin Curran and Doug McRae were attending MIT, they made side money off of arcade games that they had set up in the dorms. Being MIT students, they began to propose ways to improve both the games and their profits, and making games harder was the ideal solution. They created acceleration kits to make certain games run faster, starting with Atari's Missile Command. When that modification proved to be profitable in the confines of their dorms, they began selling it to arcades. With the money they made, they formed the General Computer Corporation and moved on to similarly improving Pac-Man. They changed many of the mechanics of Pac-Man gameplay by randomizing enemy movement and creating multiple varied mazes. To avoid copyright issues, they created a new title character, which they described as Pac-Man but with legs and cold lizard-like eyes, named Crazy Otto. The enemies were butts? Apples? During the development of Crazy Otto, Atari sued Curran and McRae for infringing on their Missile Command copyright, but the case was eventually settled out of court when Atari hired General Computer Corporation to work for them instead, making games like Food Fight. Once the dust cleared, GCC contacted Midway, the owners of Pac-Man, to see if they were interested in buying the Crazy Otto kit for their arcade cabinets. Seeing how the case with Atari turned out, Midway made a deal with GCC to be the exclusive distributor of the kits, but also hired them to create a meaner, faster version of Pac-Man, which became Ms. Pac-Man.
Honey, don't you know I'm more than Pac-Man with a bow?
Pac-Man Fever and beyond. The 1980s were a time when two grown men could dress up like disco hobos and write a throwaway novelty single about an arcade game, and it would crack the US Billboard Top 10.
'Cause I got Pac-Man fever. Pac-Man fever. It's driving me crazy.
Buckner and Garcia's original single for Pac-Man Fever was self-produced, but quickly caught the attention of CBS Records, who requested a whole album of similar material. They cranked out an album of 8 tracks in a few weeks. To follow up their single success and fill the rest of the album, the duet focused on Frogger, Centipede, Donkey Kong, Asteroids, Berserk, Defender, and the obscure game Mousetrap. The album sold 2 million copies, but their second single, Do the Donkey Kong, failed to make an impression like Pac-Man Fever did. The band faded for a while, until a wave of late 90s nostalgia for the band saw them reunite to release an album of new material about Mr. T, E.T., and Pogs. No word on whether or not they have plans to cover Alf. Pac-Madness. After Ms. Pac-Man, Pac-Man Fever reached new heights of delirium, and the franchise's video game spin-offs and sequels got really weird, which is saying something. Super Pac-Man included features that creator Otto wanted to include in the original. Stuff like locked doors and a power-up that makes Pac-Man twice his size. Baby Pac-Man confusingly alternated play between an arcade game and a pinball machine. Junior Pac-Man had scrolling mazes. Professor Pac-Man was an educational puzzle game because who knows why. Pac and Pal allowed Pac-Man to shoot freeze rays and belch smoke and was followed around by a friendly green female ghost. Pac-Land was a platformer that had graphics inspired by the animated cartoon series. Later Pac games incorporated 3D, virtual reality, and whatever other novelty bells and whistles they could squeeze in, forgetting that the original appeal of Pac-Man was in its minimal simplicity. We have yet to see a gritty first-person shooter Pac-Man, but it's surely just a matter of time. But when it came to weird Pac spin-offs, these were just the beginning. Pac-Man Goes Hollywood. The ubiquitous yellow orb was popular enough by 1982 to have earned his own Saturday morning cartoon show, which lasted for about a year. Pac-Man players know that the game doesn't exactly have a narrative or an origin story, so the cartoon show just went wild. Ignoring Pac-Man's pixelated paramour, the animated series introduced Pepper Pac-Man as the hero's wife, gave them a baby, and made them fight against the evil Mesmerine. But things got even weirder. 2013's Pac-Man and the Ghostly Adventures starts out with hoverboards, hip modern teen versions of the characters, and hints of a horrifying war, from which Pac-Man is the only survivor of a genocide against the Yellow Pac people by the evil Lord Betrayus. The maze is some sort of afterworld labyrinth, which Pac-Man enters in search of his probably dead parents, Zack and Sonny, who are possibly the original Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man. That's right, the original Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man are dead. And he also has to protect the Tree of Life. And those butt monsters from Crazy Otto, they're kinda back. What was wrong with just eating pellets? Thanks for watching. Click the grunge icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.